So about a month ago, I made one of the most important but difficult decisions I've made in my business career, and that was to shut down my six-figure marketing business. Well, at least in the way that I was running it, right? And this is still after hitting over $25,000 a month. And, this is, for a lot of people, a lot of money to just walk away from. And bear in mind, I'm only 24. I've been a full-time entrepreneur since I was 20 years old. And, this was a very difficult decision for me to make because I've been building this in the way that I've been building it for, over 3 years now, right? But in this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly why I chose to make this decision, right? What I'm doing now and my plans for the future to, surpass this, but build it in a way that's actually more suitable for my life, right? Because, we're hitting these numbers, but I didn't quit because I failed. The success was actually costing too much and it wasn't a price I was willing to pay anymore, right? So, yeah, it's the burnout behind the success. I was working 12-hour days, more than 12-hour days, from sun up to sundown. I'm working. And to be honest, I'm still doing that now because I'm in a transition phase of my business. I'm going to go into that shortly. But I was working pretty much sun up to sundown and always putting out fires. I had built a 12-person team, but I was still doing so much of the work, and, I had a team to fulfill, but I was still the one coming up with the ideas, coming up with a strategy, coming up with marketing campaigns. This is one thing teaching people what to do. It's another thing teaching people how to think. And there wasn't enough thinkers in my business. I was the only one doing any of the thinking. So all of that, mental labor was still on me. And we're working with multiple clients, multiple clients at its highest point. We had up to like 10 clients. I'm thinking and creating all of the marketing ideas and campaigns for all of them all at the same time, right? With each new client came way bigger, more responsibility for me, and I started to begin almost dreading the work and what I built, And bear in mind, this is not to say that I didn't have any fun in my life. If you go over to my Instagram, throughout this time, I was traveling the world. I was a full-time digital nomad for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and you can see some of the countries that I've been to. I was traveling and still experiencing, having really amazing experiences. Not to say my life was bad in any way, and but at the end of the day, these are on the Instagram highlights, and it is very true. um it's very true. It's the perfect thing for them because they are highlights, right? These are the highlight of my time while I was going through this period of traveling the world, having loads of new experiences. Trust me, like, I had a lot of fun. I definitely had a lot of fun, but this only made up about like 10% of my life, right? Not even 10%, 1% of my life. These are literally just the highlights. My day to day was chaos, and it was just working literally from sun up to sundown, and every once in a while I'll do something fun, right? So and this is basically, how I live, how I was running the marketing business. I realized, there has to be a better way of doing this, right? We were generating really great results for our clients, where we will scale, at some points where we're working with businesses that were barely even making, five figures in a year, right? Barely even making five figures in a year, and taking these businesses and growing them to six-figure, sometimes even seven-figure businesses in the matter of like a year or two, like in literally about in that amount of time, right? So we're generating. We had clients who were hitting over 100,000 months, but at the best, our share was only just $5,000, right? And the amount of work and effort it took to just generate this $5,000, like it just didn't make sense to me anymore. And I'm gonna go into why shortly. Another thing, you can see, some of the results that we're generating for our clients here, where this business, when we're working with them, we're barely even making 4,000, 4 or 5,000 in a month, and in the past year and a half, they generated over $1 million, right? So even while we're hitting all of these numbers, getting record months for our clients, a lot of them were still complaining about not having enough money because, ecom is a very capital intensive game, and we're working with businesses, working with owners who are bootstrapping their business. And if you know what bootstrapping is, it means that they're the ones completely funding their business. They don't really have an investor or anything. So everything is coming out of pocket. And with margins in ecom, at best you're seeing 30%. At the least, you're probably seeing 5%, and most businesses are in between like 10 to 20% net margins from their sales. So even generating $100,000, they're probably taking home $10,000 or $20,000. But this is where it gets tricky because now, because we've generated so much more sales for them, they have more demand and their product cost gets higher, so they need to spend a lot more on inventory, and they buy inventory, products, ingredients. They buy this in bulk to make it a lot cheaper. So when it's time for them to re-up on ingredients and re-up on inventory so they can continue selling more stock, they need to spend 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 at a time, and all the profits that we've generated for them from the previous months and more goes right back into inventory. So they don't really even see all of this money that they're making from the business. And I would even hitting record months, growing these businesses, 10xing these businesses. I was getting complaints from the owners that they're not making enough money, or that, the numbers aren't making sense for them because they always have to keep on putting all the money that they make right back into the business. Yeah, you can see some of what we're getting paid over here. And, it's not like it's a bad thing because this was coming from like 4 or 5 businesses, and, this was a healthy amount to be making. However, it took it took everything. It took my entire time, me devoting my life to generate these clients' results, right? And just for some context, guys, I have a marketing business, but I didn't really do all the marketing that we're doing for our clients, from the emails, text message, ideas, etc. We didn't even do that for our own business. We didn't run ads throughout that entire period. Didn't run ads. It wasn't emailing our list. We haven't touched the website in like 2 years because I focused on everything on delivering my clients' results, and I didn't even have any time to even focus on growing my own business, right? And at one point, the majority of the time later on, when we had enough clients and I was dealing with all of this, I didn't even want to get more clients because it was a lot more headache and a lot more work on my plate. So the chaos we call full service. Another reason the business, the way I was running it, made it so complicated is that we were trying to be everything for our clients, right? Whatever we needed, we would fulfill it for them. So, and to be honest, I did actually have all of these skills, but building a team, making and building a team that can fulfill on all of this is such a headache to manage, to monitor and manage all of these people that are running it and document and see everything that they're doing, and checking it on a regular basis, because there were so many different moving parts in the business that it was so hard to scale because it's a different thing every single time. It's not like a build one, sell, and it's the same process for every single client. We're doing it, custom for every single client. So every single time we just added a lot of just a lot of complexity and a lot of moving parts. So we're running Facebook, Google ads, getting people set up on Amazon and eBay, which is actually my original hustle. So that's why I started selling on eBay from I was like 14 years old. We're building our websites, running TikTok, sometimes even helping manage their social media, email, text message marketing. We're doing pretty much everything that was related to direct response for our clients. And I thought it made sense because on top of a base, we had a 5% commission deal, but it was so hard to scale these brands because there's so many moving parts I have to manage. And it's not like I can't do it all alone, I can't do it all alone, but building out a team to do this as well. And what I found out was, most people just weren't doing it as good as I did. And I always kept on getting pulled back into the operations of the business where I couldn't even look up and work on my business to improve it, right? So this is the chaos of having a full service, was when you're doing too many things and you don't have the same process for each client. I mean, there was a sort of process, but it wasn't exactly the same for each client. It makes it very hard to scale, right? So the truth is, yeah, like I began to fear getting new clients because I knew how much chaos one, even just one more would bring to everything that I'm doing, right? So for like a year and a half, I stopped reaching out or even trying to get new customers. Like the only people who would sign is the people that literally just came organically to me, right? So yeah, success became something I dreaded rather than celebrated. And each new inquiry, instead of it gave me anxiety instead of building up excitement. So, I built something great, but I felt like I was now trapped in the same thing, trapped in my own creation, and I felt like I was being punished to grow rather than being rewarded for it, right? So. Yes, this is a common thing that happens to a lot of business owners where, something that you created for freedom now becomes a sort of prison for you. And I didn't really see a way out, right? So there was a paradigm shift that did change everything. So why did I decide to change from ecom? Have I really given up on business? And, am I going to go back into getting a job? Or no. I just found a better way of doing things, and shifting into an industry where I can do the exact same work with actually I can do less work and get paid 10 times more, right? Yeah, I was watching younger creators build leaner, more profitable businesses. People that are younger than me were hitting 50,000, 100,000 months because they weren't trying to do everything. And they were in the industry that was very high margin and low complexity business models with digital products and coaching. They're selling information. So, you know, the profit margins of those type of businesses can be like 80 to 90%, literally like 5 to 10x what what e-commerce is. So like 100,000 in ecom can net you about like $10,000 that you have to put back into inventory anyway. 100,000 in the business or coaching business can net you like 90,000. Like that is a big difference, right? So yeah, the contrast was stark, right? It was simpler operations, few moving parts, and dramatically higher margins. And most importantly, there was a freedom from relentless, fulfillment. So I had an experience with one of our clients I just met through networking, and he was an investing coach. We built out our offer for him and launched it. And in the first month with the digital products, we made £52,000. This is about like close to 70 this is about close to $70,000 in our first month running this, right? And in that 1 month, I got paid more than I ever did in just one go from e-commerce. Of course, that the e-commerce brands they'll pay me on a monthly basis, but this at one time, I got paid more in that way. I got paid more as like a full payment than I ever did any of my clients in e-com with less work and even less revenue, right? And even less revenue. So I had like a 10 to 30%, commission deal. You can make so much better deals with this because it's a much higher margin business and a way more profitable. You can charge a lot more. You can do higher. You can make a lot better deals, right? Because there's no way you can charge like 10% commission in ecom because the numbers just don't work out like that, right? But you can do that in the info space, right? You can do 20%, 30%, even 50%, you know, because the business, apart from the cost to advertise and a few tools, it's almost all profit, right? So I had this experience and this kind of changed my mind on, a lot of things, but I still didn't make the decision to, quit and move away from ecom then. Because that still made up the majority of how much of the business, but this just gave me an experience where I was like, it kind of lit a light bulb in my brain where just doing the same amount of work but just for a different business in a different industry can make you so much more money, right? And in a month and a half, this ended up at like, in a month and a half, guys, this ended up at like £70,000. So that's like in a month and a half, it did like close to 100,000, to close to $100,000, right? I was also overlooking a gold mine. So even years ago, I'm talking about almost 2 years ago now. Most people, I'll do marketing consultations, people, and this is how I would sign my clients, right? And but most people couldn't really afford to work with us. So for the people that couldn't afford to work with us, later on down the line, I started selling the SOPs, all the videos, and that showed how because once I started building out a team, I needed to show them step by step how to fulfill and do the work for our clients. So I already made all these videos, made all these assets, and I'll sell it to the businesses for literally whatever price that they could afford to buy these videos off me because they couldn't afford to work with us, but these videos are so as a way you can still in this way, you can actually get the information to start doing some of this work for yourself. And you can get up to a point where you can actually afford to work with us, right? So I was selling this, and the lowest I sold it for was like $100, right? But this was still like the easiest money that I've ever made. This was like literally like money out of thin air because I didn't have to do any fulfillment. There was no extra work. I just sold that. They have these videos. They have these assets that they can use, which is great for them. And but also for me, like I didn't have need to do any extra work to make that kind of money. So that kind of flipped a light bulb in my in my mind, because I was selling digital products without really realizing it. So I already built the systems and the processes others wanted, and packaging that knowledge into scalable products will create value without the service burden. And it's a way that I can work and help a lot more people. So, I already had this, and I was already doing this without realizing, this was the light bulb. This was the thing that could really transform my business if I went more into that. But for a year and a half after, I was still in the mix and in the operation, so stuck in the agency life, right? I already had a winning model, but I just ignored it. The solution was literally staring me in the face while I chased a flawed agency dream. So, yeah, this was pretty much, yeah, doing this on those calls was pretty much all profit. I was creating the systems and the knowledge, and, I was creating systems and the knowledge, and I was leveraging my expertise, my experience, right? And selling it to businesses that couldn't really afford our service, but then they could buy that, which was very valuable for the businesses, but also the easiest money I've ever made. So yeah, like when I actually took a step back to overlook, because sometimes you have to, when you're so stuck in the thing, it's hard to have a bird's eye view. But once I took a step back to actually look at it from a bird's eye view, this was so much better than me working with many clients and trying to build a big agency, right? Okay. And then it was also more valuable to the business owners because they didn't really need to be reliant on me or anyone to grow their business. They can gain the knowledge and the skills to do it themselves, right? Because I broke down these videos, I broke down step by step for my team to fulfill, so that anyone could take those trainings and fulfill and, deliver results for themselves, right? So in a way, it's even better for the business owners because now they acquire the most important skill that they need to actually grow their own business, right? So yeah, I made a difficult decision and just cut and just start working with the majority of our clients. We only have about 3 now, so I haven't actually completely left the e-commerce space, but the rest, the majority of the clients, about 70% of them, we ended our deals with them. Ended it on amicable terms and just kind of removed all of that. And I only kept working with like our top 3 clients because they still had a lot of room to scale. They're great brands, and they've been with me for years, so we have an amazing relationship with each other, and I still want to help their business grow, but also I didn't want to go from flat zero because I still had a team, so I had to downsize the team, and I went back to about $6,000. I went back to about $6,000 a month, which is pretty much about me just breaking even so that I can afford to pay my team. So it's like I'm pretty much starting from zero again because all that money, the majority of the money is not even for me to keep. It's just the majority of it is just to keep my team on while I'm figuring everything else out, right? So I have a new focus, which is consulting business owners to market their products themselves without agencies, right? And from the top of the year, I've been working with, I was become just off referrals because I wasn't really advertising. People I met while traveling and stuff that had different businesses in different industries. I was working, I had experience of marketing digital products, marketing for home service, local businesses, coaches, consultants. And I realized, the skill is so transferable. In fact, it's actually easier because ecom is it's the hardest one because if you're doing this if anyone's making over 100,000 a month, like you have to do so much volume in ecom because you can never rest on a win. Because when you're spending so much money, you add fatigue a lot quicker. One, so you have to do pump out a lot more volume, a lot more creatives. And 2, you're playing with razor thin margins because the difference between an ad being profitable or not can literally just be the difference between a few dollars, right? Because so you're playing with ultra thin margins and you have to do it at high volume in a game where the ads fatigue the quickest. So ecom is the hardest game. So I've already done it at the highest level, basically, because anyone that's in ecom that's doing big numbers in income, these are the best marketers because they're doing it at such high volume and with razor thin margins where there's just the margin for error is so small. So I realized my skills are transferable with every different industry that I worked with. Though I had no experience with them, the process is still the same. Doing the research and human psychology, and this is why once you really understand human psychology and you understand marketing, because at the end of the day you're speaking to humans, you're marketing to humans. It doesn't matter what you're selling, you can still be profitable on it. So whatever industries I work at, new industries that people ask me to go in, even though I had no prior knowledge of them, it, every single time I would get results because I knew the marketing and I had that skill. So now I'm consulting for business owners. I realized when getting on calls with so many business owners that most of them first couldn't afford to work for a marketing agency because it's expensive, and second, even when they did, they get burnt by marketing agencies that weren't delivering results. And I had a similar experience hiring people that I thought had years of experience but couldn't even. But every single time I'd hire people, someone else that I didn't train completely. So there's one person on my team, one of my friends, that I took from no experience and trained them up on exactly how to run ads. And other person I hired that had years of experience weren't as good as him. They just weren't as good as him. So I had the experience similar to the business owners that I was taking consultations with, where they would hire people and they wouldn't deliver results because every time I tried to hire someone from externally, they didn't deliver the results. And in fact, they actually cost the business money, cost me and the business money, because then I would have to go back into the account to fix whatever problems and I was still paying them. I was still paying them, so I had to get rid of them, and go back into account managing myself to get the performance up. So I realized there's an area for businesses that are sick of marketing, working with marketing agencies for one, and second, a lot of people that can't even afford to work with marketing agencies, but still need that skill to market and grow their own business because they're still quite small, right? And forking out 4 to 5 thousand a month, excluding your ad spend, doesn't make sense. So like those people that are selling the digital, but it's basically the same market that people are selling those digital products to, but actually just focusing on them because there's such a big market of those people that need their help but can't afford it. I can't afford to work with a marketing agency full time where they're forking out 4 or 5 thousand on a monthly basis, right? So now I'm creating digital products and leveraging AI for marketing. AI has been the such a revolutionary thing because I'm using it every day now to improve our systems for the marketing. But what I realized is using AI, if you know how to use it in the right way, marketing, you don't even need a marketing agency. Most of these business owners that don't have a background in marketing, but have a background in sales or have a background running ads, they can still generate and get similar results from someone who has over 10 years experience if they know how to use AI correctly. So I'm building a digital product that's showing how people and business owners how to leverage AI to run their entire marketing themselves with less than 4 hours a week of work, right? So I'm going to build this, so something I can build once, then just sell many times, and I can work with a lot more people because what I'm doing is either I have the digital product or they want a high level of service. I mean, I'm going to be consulting them and telling them exactly what to do instead of taking on the burden of doing everything myself, which is better for the businesses in the long run because they know how to market their own business and they don't need to keep on paying me. They pay me one time or a few times, and then from then on, they get the skill that they can run their entire business themselves. So they can do this at a fraction of a cost of working with an agency, but maintain control of their own business and not have to rely on anyone else, right? So doing things in this way, I'm working with attention, not exhaustion. So, letting go of what I was doing previously was hard, but for the first time in a long time, I feel genuinely free, right? And the revenue drop was dramatic. Like I'm making less than I was like 2 years ago, which is kind of the opposite of what a big entrepreneur businesses should go. But I'm taking a step back to go two steps forward because I genuinely believe I know once I've got things systemized and I've got things set up in the right way, this is going to be a lot more. I can scale a lot quicker with this, and in turn make a lot more money. I have a much better, bigger impact on many people's lives, right? So I've actually sold my first AI consulting offer, right? And I'm working with that client now, getting feedback to refine this and get this as great as possible. So as great as and as simple as possible for business owners to use. So I'm working with her right now, and then once we've done that and modified and edited the program, we're really going to start pushing this at scale, right? So yeah, that's basically my story of shutting down my six-figure marketing agency and transitioning to something new, right? And so yeah, I'm actually so we're still working income of just a few clients, but now I've got more coaching and consulting clients in that industry and working with digital products. So digital products is almost like the same as ecom, where you're just selling products, but it's just in a digital format, so there's no cost of goods or fulfillment. So the price ranges are still the same. It's actually quite similar to running e-commerce in a way, because you're just going direct response, again, sends people to a product page, a lead page, product page, and then they buy. Where coaching and consulting is a lot more high ticket, where you're getting people onto selling more high ticket programs, where it's 2,000, 3,000, up to £10,000, selling over the phone, which involves like managing sales teams. And what we're doing is generating leads and booking appointments. So they're quite different from digital products. To the coaching and consulting can actually be quite different, right? Yeah, they can actually be quite different, and it's a slightly different process for each of them. But those are the avenues I'm going in now, because it's a lot more profitable, a lot more money in that, and with a lot less work, right? So as well as running the marketing for my clients' digital products, I'll actually have the free time and more time now to build my own digital product and consulting program. So all the work I've been doing for my clients, I'm actually going to be doing it for my own offer as well, which haven't really had the chance to, but I'm very, very excited for, because I know it can help so many people. But yeah, thank you for watching this video in its entirety. That covers my story of shutting down, my six-figure marketing business and basically starting from ground up again in a new journey, in a new industry, which yeah, I'm very excited for, because it feels like my back is against the wall. But I like this feeling. It's where, it's either I fall or fly. But yeah, I'm excited, and I know in the future, I know I've made the right decision. I know in the future we're going to be doing some really great things. So yeah, I'm going to be posting more on YouTube, so look forward to that. And yeah, I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Take care.